Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for joining us this Friday noontime to start the weekend with our show here in the studio, as we usually do most Fridays. Kick off with former state representative, former Deputy Secretary of State, now heads up Stages of Freedom, Ray Rickman, to give his big view.
So this whole week is like every other week since Mr. Trump's come to the White House. You never know what you're going to talk about when you come to Go Local. You know, you leave Stages of Freedom thinking about one thing, and then you get here and you say, should I talk about this? Because it's a problem. So I've been thinking about terrorists, homegrown terrorists, 99 out of 100, the person who sent those bombs to Michelle Obama, to President Obama, to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, to President Bill Clinton, to my friend Joe Biden. It's unbelievable, to Jill Biden. Can you imagine someone sending a bomb to someone's house to kill them? Or maybe just to terrorize them? We don't know yet if those are effective bombs or if they're just made to look effective. We don't know. But we do know that the person is sickening the political environment. He's trying to terrorize the nation. You can't have a great democracy where people offer to kill former presidents. When President Reagan was shot, I shivered. Didn't like President Reagan's politics one bit, but you do not attempt to kill former presidents in the greatest democracy in the world. Now, all the commentators are walking on thin ice. Do you accuse Donald Trump of instigating this local homegrown terrorism? Do you? No. Because if this is an adult, and I assume because of the mild sophistication of the bombs that it is an adult, it's probably a male. This person has done this, sunk this low on their own. Now, there are millions of people in this country believing things that aren't true, hating Hillary Clinton to a level that is unbelievable. And so you're not surprised by any of this. They hate Congresswoman Maxine Waters, a sitting member of Congress receiving 2 bombs. We need to get to the bottom of it. We need to put this person in prison as long as possible. And every single American, right-winger, left-winger, moderate, liberal, Democrat, Republican, moderate party, you know, all 10 of them, we need to denounce this, and we need to tell our children and everyone who will listen what a sick act this is. And on election eve, it is sick behavior. Let me conclude with this. I've been out campaigning, door to door, talking to people, and I have to tell the truth. I'm a little bothered by the lack of sophistication or the level in which people are tuning in. Can you tune in? And as my mother used to say, vote on behalf of your children's future. Don't vote personality. Don't vote race. Don't vote ethnicity. Vote on behalf of your children's future.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. I'd like to thank Ray Rickman for coming in to give his big view, and I'd like to now thank a regular guest, regular columnist, Joseph Molina Flynn, for coming into the studio. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kate, as always.
I appreciate your taking the time to come on and give us an update with the Rhode Island Latino PAC, big anniversary year, and some pretty heady fundraising numbers.
Yeah, so today is actually the 1-year anniversary of the day that we were elected to the board of the Rhode Island Latino PAC, and we're quite happy with the year that we've had so far. Over the past year, as you saw in our press release earlier today, we have raised over $27,000, which is no small feat, and we're very happy that we were able to accomplish that over the past year.
So I am probably going to ask you for some of the secret sauce. You've raised this money. I'm assuming you're in the process of identifying those candidates and those races to put this firepower behind.
So we did donate some money to some candidates during the primaries. I think what we are looking to do right now is probably maintain a lot of it for institutional stability, and we're thinking forward. I know this is crazy, but it's Rhode Island, and we're thinking forward to 2020 and 2022, and the fact that a lot of that money will be necessary then. And so there will be some donations coming, but the majority of it will be kept in reserves for so that we don't have to start from the ground up the next time around.
Do you get the sense when talking with folks, talking with both voters and candidates, elected officials, you talk about 2020, that really being a central point, as I'm assuming you're looking to potentially unseat the current administration?
Yes, I think that is a huge thing. Everybody's focused already on 2020. I think for a lot of Rhode Islanders, they already know what they're going to do in a couple of weeks here, or less than 2 weeks actually, and we're already thinking about what is going to happen with the current administration and how that'll have down ballot effect. So I do think that's a very real thing. It's kind of crazy because this election hasn't happened yet, but presidential elections do draw more people, and they have pretty serious consequences as we've seen over the past year and 10 months.
And so we've had you in a lot to talk about immigration issues, which we will tack to shortly. A few of the political pundits I've talked to recently, because we are still reaching the midpoint, have said maybe it's a little too early to look to the Democratic side as to who the challenger might be, and that the pool looks deep. What do you think will be the determining factors, after we see what Congress looks like after this election? But there's a lot of folks whose names are on that potential shortlist. How do you envision that process playing out as the Democratic side looks to see who the field's going to be for 2020?
I think the Democrats definitely need to take a deep analysis of who's going to get the win numbers. And I don't think that they've been very effective in doing that and identifying a candidate who's going to get win numbers. There are certainly sort of your establishment Democrats like Elizabeth Warren and, well, some people might say she's a little bit more progressive, but there are definitely people who are being considered that are more establishment, but they might not draw the numbers. We saw that with Hillary. Hillary did not draw she drew the numbers, but not the Electoral College. And I think that's what the Democrats really need to do, is identify a true leader for the party that is going to defeat him handily in an election. Because the other thing that we're probably going to see is no matter who it is, and if they win, and no matter what the number is, he's going to try to challenge that and say that there were millions of illegal votes and yada, yada, yada. We've heard it all before, and it won't be a surprise when we hear it again in 2020.
You do mention the construct of the Democratic Party, and it's not much different than the Republican in that they tend to elect amongst themselves the sort of heir apparent, if you will. But don't forget, too, Barack Obama was sort of that rising star that came out. And do you envision that's what will be needed, is that a person who might not necessarily be that household name right now?
I mean, so certainly one would hope that that's where they would look, because look at how well Obama did, right? And not only well in the numbers that he drew, but also well, I think, in his administration. And there are some names being thrown out there, including the governor, who has made some lists of people who think that she should run, who are not household names on a national level just yet, who may very well be the people that we need to carry those numbers forward. I know that some of the other names being thrown around are like Kamala Harris, who's fantastic, Cory Booker, but we'll just see. I mean, I don't think there's an identified candidate yet, but I think there needs to be one soon.
So you talk about it being a year mark since I first had you here in the studio when you were elected president of the Rhode Island Latino PAC.
And now we're fast friends.
So talk about how the year looks moving forward. Did you anticipate the year when you first took the position, when folks take these organizational roles, from both policy and elections to fundraising, how do you envision year 2 moving along, especially as it's going to be a non-election year?
Right. So in year 2, what I think we're going to focus on a lot is just making sure that people in the community and the Latino community know that they are welcome to participate in the political process through our organization. I think sometimes people tend to exclude themselves from these conversations because they feel like they're uninformed, like they don't know what they can contribute. But our organization truly wants to welcome all of those individuals in the community who want to participate. And so I think that's what we're going to focus on, is making sure that we provide more access to deeper pockets within the community, so that we can be truly representative of the entire Latinx community here in Rhode Island, which we think we are pretty representative, but there are deeper pockets within the community that we haven't been able to reach yet.
And let's put on your immigration attorney hat here now as we talk to the international issue that is garnering so much attention, and this is the caravan of Central American immigrants now in Mexico, ostensibly making its way towards the U.S. border. I believe, the president's tweeted a number of times, and the last one I believe he said was discussing shutting down the border, even to those seeking asylum. Is that legal?
No. So under international human rights law, it is not legal for him to shut down the border for those people seeking asylum. And look, the asylum process is complicated. It takes years sometimes for asylum cases to be adjudicated, but there is a fast process conducted at the border to determine whether the people coming in actually have credible asylum claims before they let them into the country. And sure, the courts will be backlogged a little bit with this caravan coming in, but it's nothing they haven't handled before. There was a similar caravan just since the administration took over, and those people made it through the process. So I think, obviously, yes, he's just feeding into the same rhetoric that got him elected. Obviously, it plays well with his base. It plays well with a certain base here in Rhode Island as well. Certainly, Mayor Fung is capitalizing on that rhetoric. He sent out a press release earlier today. I mean, not about the asylum seekers, but just in general about the arresting the people for ICE by the local and state police if he were elected governor. And so obviously, like, one can understand why he goes out and makes these grand pronouncements. He's hoping that it'll have an effect on the ballot. Hopefully he doesn't actually take that action, because that would be a regression for the United States in terms of the way we're viewed on the international stage. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, like everything with him, you just never know. You say he can't possibly do this, and then he does it. So we'll see.
We shall see, of course, as we approach the midterm elections here. The question of the politics of this and the response to it certainly is at the top of mind. But let's look ahead. Again, we'll know when the chips fall what Congress looks like moving into 2019. But, here we are, 2019. Will Congress ever be able to get anything accomplished on immigration?
So we've had this conversation before offline, and I don't think that they're going to get anything done anytime soon, because people are negotiating from extreme positions on both sides. And I think what everybody does agree on is that the immigration system is broken. I think how to repair it is probably the bigger issue. And I don't think that the conversations that are being had right now are in earnest. I think the only way that Congress will get something done on the immigration issue is if they have a supermajority that can just get whatever it is that they envision the reform to be without needing the other side's cooperation. But obviously, and That's dangerous, and it's dangerous on both sides because no matter what it is, if it's the Democrats and they push through a great immigration reform package, it's going to have like effects on the future, and then the next time that somebody comes in, they're gonna undo it all. So I mean, I'm just not that hopeful. We've been talking about, like we talked about the DACA issue last year, right? So like last year, one of the first times that you had me on, we talked about the DACA issue and the fact that they had 5 months or something ridiculous to get something done.
And no.
Here we are a year later and they haven't gotten anything done. And that's a pretty easy issue that most people agree that these people should be given some sort of a path to status. So yeah, I just don't see it.
So again, the 1 year mark, $27,000. Where did that hit in your hopes mark? Was that along the lines of your goals?
Yeah, so when I initially was elected president, I sort of announced that I wanted to raise $20,000 over the year.
Okay.
And some people told me that was very unrealistic. I have a great board, including my vice president, Marcela Betancourt, and the treasurer, Wesley Rodas, among others, right? We have a 9-person board, but I worked very closely with them to make sure that we hit that goal. And then exceeding it is just the cherry on top of the sundae.
Well, we'll see what happens when we have you in here for year 2, heading up the Rhode Island Latino Pack. Joseph Molina Flynn, I appreciate you taking the time to come into the studio.
Sorry I was a bit cynical, but thank you for having me.
Don't go anywhere. I'll be back here to wrap up in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News editor Kate Nagel. We'd like to thank you for joining us this Friday afternoon, kicking off with Ray Rickman, former state representative, on The Big View, and also Joseph Molina Flynn at his 1 year mark as the head of the Rhode Island Latino Pack, also putting on his immigration attorney hat, talking about that caravan of Central American immigrants now in Mexico making its way towards the United States. Continue to check in with Go Local throughout the afternoon and weekend on golocalprov.com and find us on Facebook. We look forward to seeing you back here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center on Monday for Business Monday with Josh Fenton. Have a great weekend and go Red Sox. I'm Go Local News editor Kate Nagel.